You may not want to face it, but
winter is coming.
I know this is hard for you, but winter is coming. We know what's coming with it. We can't face it alone.
Winter. It's the Grinch who stole Christmas. It's the Scrooge. It's the bane of every warm-blooded
motorcyclist. In many parts of the country, winter's already here. Right now, it's getting a little bit cooler in North Texas, but we should still see some temperatures rise in the next few weeks so that we can get a few more weeks of riding in before it gets too cold and winter sets in. Too cold to ride used to not be in my vocabulary, but there could have been a very serious incident a few years ago that changed that for me. Stay tuned, I'll tell you about what happened then and what I now consider too cold to ride, at least for me. But cooler temperatures do not mean you have to park your motorcycle, so before we get to my story, let's talk about some tips to extend the riding season for you this year. You know, when it comes to extending the riding season and doing so in relative comfort, the most important part of your body to keep warm is the core and your head. So from your shoulders down to your waist, your neck and your head. If you can keep those areas warm, you're going to do a whole lot better. So if you can keep your head and body core warm, it will go a long way to helping you deal with the cold in your extremities. You know, the absolute best way to do this is with a plug-in heated jacket lighter and heated gloves. You can go to MCrider.com/heated gear and I'll forward you on to Amazon. They have a wide selection of heated motorcycle gear. I've used and really like the Gerbing heated jacket, and you'll find those on the link. So you can get a heated jacket liner and gloves, so those go underneath your riding jacket. And the nice thing about the jacket liners, if you get one with the full sleeves, is it will have a wire going down the sleeves as well that can plug into gloves, and you can have heated gloves attached to the liner, and man, it really is comfortable riding that way. If you got a cable connected to your battery, you know, something you use for a battery tender, you've already got the power supply that you need for the heated gear. If not, it's a simple install to just get that cable connected to the battery on your motorcycle, and then you leave it in a place where you can hook the jacket liner up to it. So that jacket liner plugs into the motorcycle, and then it has settings to allow you to adjust for the warmness of the liner. And most jacket liners also have those plugs that we talked about that come down, but you'll want to look at that first to make sure it's got the extensions for the heated gloves as well if you plan on getting the gloves and the liner. In my opinion, a heated jacket liner and heated gloves will get you through just about any temperature that you care to ride in. I got where I really liked riding in colder temperatures when I had that heated gear on. It's kind of like wrapping up in a big electric blanket and going out for a ride. Other than staying warmer, one of the big advantages of using heated gear is not having to use so many layers to stay warm, so there's less bulk. If you've just got a jacket liner, your riding jacket on top of it, you stay a whole lot more comfortable, and it's a whole lot less restricting when you're riding, going that route as opposed to dressing in a bunch of layers. I like heated grips on a motorcycle, but they're not nearly as effective as heated gloves are. Grips will keep just the palm of your hands warm, and you kind of move your fingers around to try to keep your fingers warm. But it doesn't do much for where the wind is hitting and coming across your hands. Nothing beats a pair of heated gloves to keep the entire hand warm and your fingers warm as you're riding down the road. It really is a big difference in heated gloves over heated grips. So if you want to ride someone that's cooler out, invest in a heated jacket liner and gloves. I really like that Gerbing brand. You can call it an early Christmas present to yourself, and you can find the details to purchase that at mcrider.com/heated gear. So if you don't want to ride when the temperatures get really low, or you don't want to spring for the heated gear, dressing in layers is the only other option. And I like a warm base layer, so a thin long sleeve, you know, long john style shirt on the bottom, and then I like a thin windbreaker shirt over the top of that, you know, something you can pull over, but something that will keep the wind out of that. And then a good riding winter jacket over the top of that that's got your armor in it with all the zippers closed to help keep the air out as well. I added to that thermal layer under my jeans or my riding pants and boots that seal out the cold, and I was pretty good, you know, for temperatures down into the mid-30s. And depending on how much wind protection your motorcycle's got, touring bikes are a whole lot better than sport bikes or naked bikes as far as keeping the wind off of you. So the type of motorcycle you've got or whether or not you've got a windshield is going to make a big difference in how cold of a temperature you can ride in as well. So I always wear a full face helmet so that doesn't change in the wintertime. If you add a neck gaiter, so that'll keep the wind off of your neck and keep it from going down your jacket so much. So that makes a huge difference. Add a neck gaiter, a full face helmet, close off all the vents in that helmet, and you're good as far as the top portion of you. But when the temperatures start to really cool down, you will notice that your visor fogs up on your full face helmet. This can easily be solved with a pin lock visor. Many helmets come with a pin lock as standard, and I just keep mine on the helmet at all times. A pin lock visor has 2 pins on each side so that you can clip this flexible piece on the inside of the visor. That flexible piece seals the visor with the rubber gasket around it and creates like a dual pane visor that really is fog resistant and makes a huge difference when it starts cooling off. So if you're struggling with your helmet fogging up in cold weather, install one of these pin locks that either came with your helmet, or see if there's an option for a pin lock visor for your helmet, or consider upgrading your helmet to one that includes a pin lock, because it really makes a big difference in winter riding. My favorite helmets by far are Shoei helmets, and if you go to mcrider.com/helmet, you can see all the options available from Shoei. I think every full-face helmet that Shoei makes either comes with the pin lock visor as standard, or it's got an option for a pin lock. So we've talked about heated gear, the ultimate for winter riding, in my opinion. We talked about heated gloves and why they're better than heated grips. We talked about using layers if you don't want to wear the plug-in heated jacket liner and gloves, and we talked about using a pin lock visor for your full face helmet to keep your visor from fogging up. So with heated gear on and the long john underneath my jeans or riding pants, I've ridden in single-digit temperatures on a motorcycle. That was pushing it about as far as I'd want to go as far as temperatures, but something happened a few years ago on a cold morning commute that changed my mind. I was working for the airlines at the time, and I had a morning commute to work. It had gotten, I think, into the low teens the night before, but there was no precipitation, so I didn't think it would be an issue riding. I was entering on the highway. I was going about 50 miles per hour. It was an entrance ramp onto the highway. I had an F-150 that was close behind me. And at some point in the night, somebody had spilled something onto the end of that entrance ramp, and it had frozen over, causing this thin layer of ice to freeze overnight. Once I got on top of it, I could see the ice, but approaching it, I couldn't see that ice at all. So I'm entering that entrance ramp to the highway, and I'm accelerating to get up to highway speed. When I get on the ice, I can feel the tires start moving and the bike sliding underneath me. I remember feeling the rear tires slip around, and I could see ahead to where the end of the ice was, so I knew I was getting ready to hit dry pavement, and I could feel the back end of the motorcycle sliding out to the side. Now, I could have, chopped the throttle. If I'd have chopped the throttle, I may have crashed. If I had continued to accelerate, I probably would have continued to lose the rear end. Had I grabbed the brakes, I probably would have crashed, bike slipping out from under me, and no telling what would have happened with that truck behind me. But what I did is I squeezed in the clutch, and I decided to ride it out and hope that tire wouldn't continue to slip too far. What it did was it slipped until I got to the end of the ice, and then I hit that dry pavement, and the bike kind of chirped. The tires chirped a little bit, and the bike straightened up. Thankfully, it wasn't far enough around to cause a high side, or I would have been in real bad shape there. But it got my attention for sure. The bike slipping out from under me and me hitting it at about probably 50 to 55 miles per hour. I went on to work, but I was cautious on that ride home. So after that experience, it's become my practice not to ride after a hard freeze. Even when there's not been any precipitation the night before, and the temps have dropped into the, well below freezing, and there's a possibility if something was on the road, it's going to freeze up. I tend to stay off of the road until the temps are high enough to melt any problems off of the road. Usually in Texas, that's by mid-afternoon. It has warmed up enough, or there's been enough traffic on the road to get rid of any of those issues. You know, maybe it was an isolated incident with the water or whatever that was that got on the road, but that's one risk that I'm not willing to take anymore. So for me, a hard freeze the night before, I'm going to wait till things warm up a little bit. So I hope you found these tips helpful. I hope you found something here that it helps extend your ride into the cooler season. If you have tips or advice, leave a comment below. And as always, we'll be talking about this on the forums. So I hope you'll join us on the forums for a discussion over there. Till next week, guys, it's Kevin with MCrider, and I'll see you on the road.